What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Six Pack Network. I'm your host, Dylan Clemons, and my co-host today is Joe Bond, founder of Fantasy Six Pack. And today we are continuing our training camp check-in shows where we are going around to all 32 NFL teams and interviewing a beat writer, reporter, or a fan of the team on what they've seen or heard about training camp. In this episode, we are talking the Tennessee Titans, and here helping us do so is Darrell Winstead, who is a podcast host for IDP Nation podcast and the DevyIDP Grind podcast. Darrell, I appreciate you giving us your time in such a busy time of the year. How are you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me. You wanted to talk about the Titans. I said, sure, I'm all for that.
Yeah, let's go. Before we jump into the interview, though, I want to remind everyone, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Then head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans to become an all-access member. And that's where you get access to our award-winning rankings, draft cheat sheets, and F6P Discord, where you get all your custom league advice and questions asked, where you could ask your custom league advice and get your questions answered. There we go. And that truly is the best part. Right now, you can also save a little cash, too, by using promo code F6P NFL24 for 15% off. But that's enough of all the shameless plugs. Joe, how about you hit Darrell with the first question we have for him?
Yeah, man. So we will start here with the quarterback position, and Mr. Will Levis is going to be taking the helm here. There's a lot of changes in this offense. They brought in Calvin Ridley, new running backs. Is he ready to take the leap this year to really be able to lead this team to some wins? And, we saw a couple flashes last year of some of the greatness that he could provide, but then we also saw some of the growing pains, so if we want to, lack of a better word, right? And how long of a leash does he have?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has to be the guy this year, right? Because I just don't see him going to Malik Willis or Mason Rudolph. That's emergency cases.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, they put a lot of weapons around him, right? They upgraded the team as far as bringing in Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd and some others. They lose Derrick Henry, but they've got Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. So this team's going to look a lot different from what we're used to seeing from Tennessee, right? Play action, hand it to Henry and let him do his thing. So,
yeah.
I think Levis, you ask about how long of a leash. I think he'll have a leash for the most part for all season, right? They really want to see what he can do, and it's clear that they want to see that because of the weapons that they put around him, right? They brought in all new passing attack. So I don't think they're going to pull him quickly. I think he's got the year to prove what he can do, but that's just it. He's going to have to prove it. I think he makes a pretty good jump. I wouldn't say he makes a huge jump, but I think he's going to be a lot better just due to those weapons that they put around him, right? It's going to be a little more conducive to what he likes to do, throw the ball and whatever. The one thing is his decision making. He's really going to have to dial that in. It was a problem at Kentucky at times. You kind of seen it last year at times. And if they can't correct or at least get that trending in the right direction where it's less and less and less, then my opinion is if he doesn't show them something this year, then they're going to start looking for a QB because they're not married to him. They didn't draft him. They didn't bring him in. So, it's kind of a put up or shut up year. I know that's for a second year guy. That seems strange to say, but when that's not your guy and you didn't draft him, that's kind of where we're at, I think.
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, we're seeing a lot of teams, if they bring in new coaching staffs, move off of, the old teams guys rather quickly. So I'm not too shocked to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and if he doesn't do it this year, man, he might not do it. And he's got a good offensive-minded head coach now at Brian Callahan coming over from the Bengals.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
they tried fixing the offensive line as well. So, like you said, they've done everything they can to support him. Just time to see if he can do it.
Yeah, and I've heard some good things in camp. As far as it seems to be, he's clicking with Ridley quite a bit. I know Hopkins has been hurt and missed a little bit of time, but like I said, if he can just get the decision making under pressure and stuff, if he can get that dialed in, I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, for sure. We mentioned the backfield already with Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard trying to fill the shoes of Derrick Henry, who is a monster for the Titans for years. How do you see this backfield shaking out? Last year, we saw flashes from Spears, who in limited workload, he's explosive, makes plays. Tony Pollard 2 years ago was phenomenal. And us in the fantasy industry last year, we were drafting him as a top 5 guy. Now you get him way later in the mid 20s. So, Darrell, how do you see this backfield shaking out here for the Titans?
Yeah, I don't know that it's quite 50-50. I think I would be a little more comfortable with a 60-40 in favor of Pollard.
Okay.
If we're getting the Pollard, like you said, from 2 years ago, that's a great thing for the Titans, right? I think he was still working his way back from an injury last year, and it kind of showed at times. But I think Spears is going to have a big role, right? He's kind of similar to Pollard, but he's explosive, right? So, and I think that's kind of what they're looking for, more of the screen game, more of the check down out of to the flats and stuff like that. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that out of the running backs. But I think it would be Pollard 60-40, I think.
I like to hear that because Pollard, he's one of my biggest targets in the running back position. I'm a guy who likes to wait at the position. And like I said, he's going as a top 5 guy last year. Last year, he's coming off the broken leg too. He's another year past that. Maybe he's healthier. And I think he's a steal and he's a good value. So here, and you think he's going to have a 60-40 in favor of him. I like to hear that.
And you can get him at, seems like from what I've seen in some drafts, you can get him at a really good value. Like I'm in of course it's got IDP, but it's just a redraft league that we do for charity. But I got him in the 16th round, and he was like my third running back. So
yeah, that's great value for sure.
Yeah,
he's going very, very late in drafts, especially like Dylan said compared to last year. But yeah, I mean the thing with him, the volume may not be there like you would like, and that's why he falls. But you just hope that if he gets back to like his old Cowboys efficiency days, then it's gonna be just fine for him. But let's move over to this wide receiver group here. And look, it's a pretty good group, man. DeAndre, I know it's a little older, but DeAndre Hopkins, I know he's hurt right now. But, when they're all healthy, it's D-Hop, it's Ridley, like we mentioned, and then Boyd. That's a pretty good trio. When they're all healthy, who's the lead dog here?
I think Hopkins is going to be your lead dog, but I think Ridley's going to be your playmaker. He's going to be the guy in this offense. He's going to be the one that stretches it down the field. I wouldn't be surprised to see him lead the team in targets. He's just, like I said, from what I've seen and heard so far, him and Levis have been clicking pretty well. So that's a good thing. But it's going to be close between him and Hopkins. But I think Ridley, if you're looking like for your really big playmaker, I think it's going to be Ridley.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're expecting a little bit of a bounce back from Ridley. From what a little bit I've heard is that that they seem to be moving him around on that offense a little bit, opening up his route tree a bit more than the Jags did. The Jags seem to like just kind of put him in that like, hey, just go down the side of the field, where Ridley can really like go cross field, like open up and really just kind of work. And he was a big like yards after catch guy, but like last year just didn't really click for him in the Jags. But is that stuff that you're hearing and seeing as well?
Yeah, they're moving him all over, using him in different ways. So, this is probably the best overall receiver group that Tennessee's had in maybe forever, right? Seriously, you got Hopkins, you've got Ridley, you've got Tyler Boyd, who knows knows the offense for Brian Callahan from their time in Cincinnati. You've still got Traylon Burks, who kind of gets pushed back. You've got Nick and Keeney, or Westbrook and Keeney. Don't sleep on him. I think as a fourth or fifth receiver, he's going to have some value too. So I think those big three, right? That's, Hopkins, Ridley, and Boyd. That's going to be your big three, and I think they're going to do well. Like I said, it's going to be different from what we've seen Tennessee in the past. So.
Yes, absolutely is. And look, let's talk about one more pass catcher here, and it's Chig. He seems to be a little bit of a forgotten man in this offense. We haven't even mentioned him tonight. He's going late in fantasy drafts, and this is a guy who we've seen flashes from him the past couple years. He just hasn't seemed to get enough volume to really be a useful fantasy target. Do you see that changing in this offense, or what are your thoughts here on Chig?
I think he's a talented receiver, but this offseason, he's had some drop issues, a couple fumble issues, and, with the shared practices and scrimmages and stuff this preseason. So they're expecting him to be the guy, right? And most likely he will be that starter, but he needs to clean some things up, right? They're not just going to reward him because he's the starter before. So he's kind of going to have to prove it to this coaching staff. So he needs to clean some things up. I think the talent's there. He just needs to find his groove and get settled in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, not a huge fantasy target, but he's going to be streamable at some point. So, but speaking of some fantasy, we are a fantasy focused show. So want to ask everybody the same question here. And the question that we're asking is, who is one player that you've been hearing about at camp or watching, seeing, that you think is going to surprise people, good or bad, that fantasy managers really need to know about?
I'm going to stay at tight end and say Josh Wiley. This coaching staff, they freaking love him. They love him. He can do everything he does. He's not great, but he can do everything that they ask, and he can do it pretty well, right? He's reliable, consistent from what I've seen and heard so far, but this staff really likes him. I don't expect him to, come out and be the number 2 receiver, target-wise on the team, but if Chigo can't get his stuff together and cleaned up, right, I could see Wiley definitely eating into his target share. And even if Chigo does, right, I can still see Wiley having a decent little piece of the pie, right, as that second tight end. So I think people will just kind of write him off with all the receivers and Chigo, and I think he's going to surprise some people with what he does this year.
I like that name. Right. Darrell, you being an IDP guy, do you have anybody on the defensive side of the football who people need to know about, or who is your favorite IDP target from the Titans?
Well, everybody's going to say Jeffrey Simmons, right? I mean, he's the lead dog. He's out there barking at people. He's barking at his own teammates. So, when it's game time and he flips that switch, he's hard to deal with. So,
for sure.
I think for fantasy purposes, he's one. But I think Kenneth Murray is going to be a big piece because we don't have Azeez Al-Shaair anymore. So there's a lot of tackle opportunities to be made. So I think Kenneth Murray, if you're looking for one IDP, I think he's the one you want outside of Simmons.
Right on.
Good stuff. All right, man. I want to thank you for coming on. This was great. Before we close up shop, though, I want to give you the opportunity to let everybody know where they can find you and what you got going on this season.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I was excited to come on and talk a little football with you, a little Titans. I have the IDP Nation and DevyIDP Grind. So IDP Nation is NFL, right? IDP and DevyIDP Grind is for more of the degenerates that like to do the college fantasy stuff. So we do the IDP over there. We have the website IDP Nation, and then you can go to our Patreon, and we have everything from free articles to stuff all the way up to rankings. And I've got IDP Devy rankings. It's just all defensive players for Devy, and there's 350 of them ranked for this year. So that's over there.
Sweet.
There's stuff for high school that I do. I'm crazy,
Wow.
so just go check it out. But there's a little something for everybody.
I'll definitely
Sounds
check
good,
it out
man.
for
Sounds
sure.
good. Yeah, I'm jumping into college football finally over there on Fantrax, man. That's
so
my
much
home
fun.
for them. So the good stuff. I need all the help I can get. So, all right, man. Well,
Right.
I want to thank you. This was great, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, anytime. Just give me a yell.
Thanks,
All
Darrell.
right, sounds good, man. See ya. All right, so that is it for our Tennessee Titans training camp check-in here. Dylan, I think that was a good one. So hopefully everybody
Absolutely.
else got some information out of it. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Follow us wherever you're listening, watching, whatever it is. And yeah, we will see you next time.
Thanks,
Peace.
everybody.